Welcome to 24 Sports, and today I'm very excited. I'm having a very special guest, and we're going to be diving into a very deep conversation about mental and physical health for our athlete. And today I'm having Mr. Edgar Kazibwe. Welcome to 24 Sports.
Thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here, and I'm excited to share and engage with you and also our viewers. It's going to be a good one.
All right. For those ones that don't know you, briefly introduce yourself and let the viewers know the person I'm having today.
Okay. My name is Edgar Kazibwe. I'm a sports psychologist by profession. I have a master's in sports psychology, and I work with several organizations within sport. Specifically, currently I'm working with cricket. I'm also working with tennis. I've worked with rugby.
Wow.
I've worked with, I'm going to start working as well with golf and hockey. I also engage with different multidisciplinary clinics to ensure that we help athletes, especially in the direction of mental health, performance, and the psychology itself in sport.
Okay. So are you on any committee?
Oh, yes. I'm currently as well on the Uganda Olympic Medical Committee. That committee is very, very crucial in helping athletes develop, but also it's a wing of the Uganda Olympic. Actually, it's the medical commission and not the medical committee. It's very, very important for athletes because it helps them learn a couple of things here and there. We've engaged athletes on very many platforms for the Uganda Olympic Committee, and there are many things that athletes pick from that committee. So I also do some work there, run advocacy as well for mental health, and especially in elite sport. So that's mainly what we do in that direction as well.
I was doing a bit of research about you, and I saw you have a company in, is it graphics?
Oh yes, I'm a man of I'm a man of all trades, a jack of all trades.
Journalist background.
Yes, I have a heavy journalistic background. I've worked with Kao Sports, and I've been their editor for a while till I left about 2 years ago. But I have over 10 years. Yeah, I have over 10 years of experience in media as well. Yeah.
Amazing. Yeah. So I have the right person, and hope you're going to answer most of the questions that our people out there they have been asking. And if you're watching, you are a parent and you're an athlete, this is your show. You need to sit and listen. So a lot of people are asking a lot of questions like, are these athletes safe here in Uganda? Because we have seen a lot of cases all over, athletes pulling out in Olympics. There is one that actually left before the competition starting and pulling out because of mental health issues. Others social media pressure or something. But coming back here, a lot of people they underlook that sector, or they think there is no professional people to handle such cases. Or some parents are saying my kids, I'm not going to engage them in this sport because maybe they cannot handle, let me say, swimming. So almost when they are swimmers, they are half naked.
Yes.
You understand? And maybe a photographer might take a picture and puts on internet, and they comments or on social media, and that can traumatize that athlete and pull out of that day. How have how is there proper channels here in Uganda, like help such cases?
Yes, first and foremost, I would say sports psychology or performance psychology in Ugandan sport is not at a very high level. Why? Because the individuals who are practitioners, who are well skilled and are going to give this kind of support to different organizations are not very many. For as far as I know currently, to get a proper qualified sports psychologist in Uganda right now, it's going to be like a needle in a haystack. For example, yes.
I was checking, and to be honest, your name kept on rotating and coming back. You're the only one I found by search on internet.
Yes. And if you go deep and try to search, most of the individuals who are trying to do something connected to sports psychology are either maybe a qualification away, or they even don't get sufficient support or recognition from the individuals they are trying to ensure they support. So as far as I know, I probably know one person aside from me who has also gone to some level of study, a very good level, but they chose not to practice. I think because they found the market was a little bit tricky. Yes, so that is the landscape of sports psychology so far in Uganda. But we try to push the mantle. We have mental health advocates like Joshua Luwama, he's a footballer. He's also part of the current URAFC cohort, the players, and he's been as well all over the place trying to push aspects about mental health. So he's a partner because we studied together psychology at university, and because he's in sport, he's one of the individuals who have gone out to try to introduce this kind of aspect to every individual out there. So we've done a lot of advocacy, we've tried to push mental health all over the place, and hopefully individuals who are watching can be able to pick a thing or two as we talk. Now, you spoke about athletes and their protection, and how they are viewed, especially with high pressures of performance, exposure. Sometimes they need some privacy in their lives, but they are not getting all this. Social media, all those things hugely affect athletes.
And the system, like there's those, I feel some systems like that, abuse the athlete.
Yes, because actually when I was still writing for KAO, we managed to cover a story in athletics. It was about a coach whose names I won't mention here, but the coach was abusing young athletes. And it was a big story, but at the end of the day, even the BBC picked it up. Because I got calls from abroad and everyone was trying to inquire what was happening. And it was a very big story that was covered jointly in the media by different media houses, yes. But one of the issues that happened in that story is the kind of protection the players had at that point in time was not sufficient enough to ensure that they would confide with the different authorities around to tell them their story. So at the end of the day, that's when the psychologist or the sports psychologist comes in, where the psychologist is going to say, I'm open to working with you individuals, but I want to create a safe environment. We usually call it psychological safety, where a team or an individual is in an environment that has been facilitated by a sports psychologist or a mental health practitioner to ensure that they can be able to speak about the challenges they face, irrespective of the people around them. Yes.
Because what I've seen, a lot of athletes, I don't know why is it too hard for them to open up on what is going on. Either it's on their mental health or pressure surrounding what the performance, like they don't open up. Is it goes back does it go back to the systems that are in place when these athletes are coming? I don't know.
Yes, I think it goes back to the systems first of all, because the systems, the way they are set, they most likely don't protect the athletes in the best way. I'll give you an example. If I'm to run, let's say an organization, let's say it's in charge of, let's say cricket.
Yeah.
And if I don't introduce safeguarding to the coaches that are handling young athletes, the athletes are always at a huge risk of either being abused, not even just sexually, but even emotional abuse. For example, there's a coach who will back at a player, but maybe they don't know their background. There's a coach who will instruct a player to do a certain thing and then add maybe an abusive word or a challenging word. And at the end of the day, this can unearth traumas in the player, and they end up deeming that environment not safe. And they also don't feel protected. So it is very, very, very key that individuals who look out for the mental health of players, who look out for the mental health of the system, who look out for the psychological well-being of the system, are incorporated in all these environments, specifically sporting environments, because it's very, very helpful in streamlining and helping those individuals work within the best frames.
Because most of sports sector, they maybe some they look at the physical protection of athletes, and they forget this mental protection, and it is very, very important.
Yes.
Because we have seen a lot of examples, and I don't know, because here in Uganda we lose so much talent at let me say at raising peak or at their peak because of mental issues, but because we don't take that case so serious, we always lose out on a lot of young players.
Yes.
A player has been almost there 21, 19, and you hear he's retired, or they are no longer doing it, and yet when they were coming up they had so much potential. So that mental issue is really important, and I feel it is missing in our sports society.
And to even just add to that, for example, in football, very many people know that there's sorcery, there's witchcraft, and all these things in football. I'll give you even a short story. I was listening to some of the old stories, how Uganda Cranes used to play Rwanda. And the Rwandese would come with, we call them fetishes and all these other things, and put behind in the goal. So whenever you went so close, maybe it is a corner, you'd see a package inside the goal. And you're like, what is that? And then no one on the Rwanda team or any other team would allow you to take it away or remove it. So psychologically, you guys are already challenged.
Even last season in our Ugandan Premier League, I don't know if you followed that game of Chitara. I think it was in either Uganda Cup. They were doing funny things on the pitch in Hoima.
Yes.
And they won that game.
Yeah.
So witchcraft in African football, it's very common.
Yeah, it's very common. But again, it goes back to, for example, if you have a psychologist on board, or a sports psychologist, or someone who's looking out for the mental health, some of the times we can help these players reframe. What do I mean by reframing? For example, if your mindset is always on what the package inside the goal, we can help you understand that if you still stay in that moment, it is going to be challenging for you to focus on the present moment. Somebody is passing a ball to you, but your mind is not there. Yes, it's still on there. So it can cause a gap in your performance, and at the end of the day, even the team that is competing against you can easily take points, or maybe score a goal or find a loophole in your system. So it is very, very key. And it's interesting because the kind of roles that we do are very diverse. If you discover a psychologist is going to give you almost 360 almost everywhere, because we'll come in and support the coaches, because the coaches are also individuals who need support. We'll come in, support the administration, ensure that there's player safety. We also call it safe spaces. If we can create safe spaces within team environments, then performance can increase. Then we go to mental health as well. For example, a player is suffering from depression, anxiety, stress, all these things. It is very, very key that you have somebody who looks out for that. So getting somebody like a sports psychologist on a team setting is 10 times fold benefit.
Yeah, because the countries that we look up to, those are the sectors that really invest in a lot. And we can see they are succeeding. They are way, way, way ahead of us. But let's even talk about the physical protection, because I understand you come from the side of cricket.
Yes.
And one thing I know about cricket is that cupboard you use. It's very hard. And so how is the protection of athlete, like in our sports? Because I understand Uganda, is the equipment enough? They where I come from in swimming, they don't have enough swimming pools. They always hire out, as the federation, they don't have. So crickets, those bells, those protective gears, because I see you have a lot of things you wear on the knees. So protective gear is very, very important. Actually, when we are presenting about concussions, I think you've heard of concussions, especially because you've been in rugby. Concussions can also happen in any other sport, including even football. Because that recent case of was it in Euros? Ericsson.
Yes.
On the pitch.
Yes.
He fainted.
So the impact that a ball has, depending on the size, because the big ball, most of the time you may find the impact is less. But the smaller the ball gets, the higher the impact, depending on also its density and how thick it is and all that. Now, for sports like cricket, if us as sports psychologists, we don't advocate for physical safety, there are higher chances we are also putting the player at risk of such issues. For example, if the ball hits the helmet, us as psychologists, we are also equipped to ensure that things like concussions are examined. If it has happened, maybe we seclude the player, or we ensure that they are getting maximum attention they need. But also in conjunction, obviously, because we work in multidisciplinary clinics and situations. Multidisciplinary means we are working with different disciplines. A physio will work with a psychologist, a head coach will work with a psychologist, a doctor will work with a psychologist. So because we keep sharing knowledge, you find that even physical safety is one of the most important things that all these athletes need to have. And all of us advocate for the same. Because a physio may take care of the concussion, but when I'm having a session with an athlete, I'll always remind them that, you know what, you're facing a ball that is coming to you at a certain speed. Any blinking, you could lose sight of the ball and straight up it is on your skull. So it is very, very important that safety gear is considered and given attention as well. So it cuts across. We always as well push for physical safety, because it puts the player in a very good position to ensure that, one, their mental health is okay, two, they are not creating situations that increase risk and then reduce performance, but also we ensure that their health, not only mental but physical health, is also taken care of.
Now, since you have mentioned that the physical, they like you guys, you're not like many. Can you highlight the challenges that you're seeing, like in our Ugandan sport industry, so that maybe the call will be out there, maybe to different federations, to try and either invest in, or the government to come in. As we remember way back, the government started we were lacking this sector, maybe put up a different fund for people to go and educate people, come on board and everything. So highlight those challenges so that people know that you guys are important and are needed. There is a gap.
Yeah, there's a huge gap, and I would first of all say if you look at the new sports law or the new sports act, it doesn't really cater so much about mental health, especially in sport. I feel like that is one of the biggest loopholes that the government needs to reconsider. For example, if there are amendments in future, there must be provisions for at least high-level and elite teams to have people who support in the area of mental health. It is very, very crucial, and it is something that probably needs to be inducted into the law to ensure that individuals are operating within specific guidelines with regard to mental health, but also psychological safety. Secondly, the challenges we face as us practitioners, especially within team settings and individual settings, is stigma.
Okay.
Every other time somebody is seeing somebody working on their mental health, most of the time they're going to say, that person has an issue. Maybe he's going to get mad. Maybe he has maybe he has a challenge,
and
he can no longer comprehend
most of our society out there, they are still thinking mental issues are for depression. How can you go and tell your friend or your father or your grandfather that you're in depression? Those are white people disease.
Yes, most people have tagged them white people disease.
That is what I thought. I was like,
yes,
are you white or something?
Yes,
but mental issues are really serious.
Yes, and you find somebody is battling, let's say, depression, battling anxiety, battling trauma, battling very many things. Could be even PTSD, because let's say, for example, a tragic event happens. You remember this? There's an incident that happened in Manchester where a couple of players died on a plane, and I think up to today they still remember them. But the individuals who witnessed those events, up to now, they could be living with trauma. Sometimes there are games that you compete in, and they are mini traumatic to you because of the after effects. Let's say, for example, you've lost a qualifying game to the World Cup. Some of those memories never leave your mind. And at the end of the day, those memories can even tantamount to what? To trauma. So there are very many things that happen around sports settings, but in hindsight, you find that individuals end up, let's say, if they are to seek help, they say, no, that guy is mad. That guy has an issue. So the stigma is very, very unyielding, especially if you're to give support in line of mental health, in line of psychology to teams. So it's one of the other challenges we have. The third challenge is appreciation of the service, especially within administrations. We struggle a lot, especially in Uganda. For example, I would struggle a lot to convince even my colleagues or people within different organizations, sporting organizations, that you guys need a psychologist. But until they start realizing that they keep hiring coaches, sacking them, hiring new ones, sacking them, but they don't work on the mental side of sport, then they start understanding that Edgar will not only work on the mental health, but also will help your performance. Because it is multifaceted. I can come in and support in the mental health, but there's also another added aspect I can give you. For example, I'm going to teach you psychological skills that are very crucial in helping an athlete become a top performer. For example, if you find somebody like Cristiano Ronaldo, one of his aspects that made him stay at the top is because he worked with a psychologist early in his career. He learned a lot of psychological skills that at the end of the day, these are skills he kept building up on. And even when we are teaching, especially individuals about sports psychology and all the skills that we teach, you find that Ronaldo ticks most of the boxes. Exactly. And that is how he got to the top and is very consistent. So sometimes even sporting environments require consistency, but people don't know how to make the athletes consistent. They don't know how to make the athletes concentrate well. They don't know how to make the athletes debrief. Maybe it has been a difficult season. They don't know how to delve into the details of how they can reflect well. all those things come back to the sports psychologists who can support in those areas. But we go back to the problem. Most people struggle to appreciate, either maybe because they are underinformed or they don't believe in the service. But I'll give you a testimony. Ever since I started working with cricket as a sports psychologist, it took us about 3 years to build a team, both the men and the women, because I was ready supporting, but we also had high-level coaches and all these other things that we're bringing in. And I tell you, after about a period of 3 years, we managed to qualify for the World Cup for the very first time in the history of cricket in Uganda.
Wow.
And that was because we tried to create a multidisciplinary team around the setup with also the input of the sports psychologist. Secondly, the girls had taken over 4 years without qualifying for the Globals. Globals is the penultimate stage before the World Cup. We managed to qualify for the Globals for the very second time in their careers as the national team of the women, yes. But why? Because the environment the men were sharing is the same environment we created for the women. So I would try to support both teams as much as I can, but also in conjunction with other individuals. But the key thing in there is, once you take care of the mentor, because mentor is 90% of your performance as an athlete. If you take care of the mentor, that 90%, practice also mentally, not just only physically. There are higher chances you're going to put yourself in a very, very good position, a position of consistency, a position of high performance, a position that can get you as many places as you want to get above every other team. So for me, it is very, very important that people, especially associations and all these other individuals who run sport, know that the value of a sports psychologist is very, very huge, very huge. So maybe those are the 3 challenges I can maybe mainly highlight. Maybe the other is obviously funding, incorporation into, let's say for example, we have a national council's national NCS statute that is there. If we can also incorporate that, I'll give you another example. In the UK, what happens in the UK is they've put a rule. Every team that is participating in the Premier League has to ensure that they have either a mental health practitioner tagged onto the team, a sports psychologist, or someone who is going to help in that direction.
To add on that, I was reading somewhere that Man City, they have a sleeping doctor coach on their team. And that's how far those guys take.
Yes.
Like athletic, very serious.
Yes.
Because if you have a sleeping doctor on that team, how to prepare an athlete that you need to sleep between this and this, your body needs to rest between this and this, that is serious.
Yes, it is serious.
So I think maybe you guys, what you need is to open more, like, show different sports sector that there is a problem here, like, so that you guys can come in. Maybe they don't know.
Yeah, and one thing I would like to credit is the Uganda Olympic Committee. I think because of constant exposure and also their modules of training, they've created provision for people to understand, especially all the associations. They've created provisions for them to understand that mental health is very, very crucial, but as well having somebody like a sports psychologist on board is very, very helpful, not only in mental health direction, but also in performance. Yes.
So, talked all about the challenges and everything. So, what are the solutions that we can look at and tackle?
Yeah, the solutions are very many. First of all, we have to create provisions within team settings where we have an environment that is helpful to the player mainly. You find that many players can't open up. They can't say their problems, but you wonder, how do they fail to perform? So sometimes the individuals around teams are only focused on the performance, but they never get to know how this person spends the extra 19 hours away from training off the pitch. For this hour, we are going to train 4 hours. Okay, we shall train 6, 3 in the morning, 3 in the evening. Maybe like, for example, the teams at KCCA. They'll train maybe 3 or 2 hours in the morning, 2 hours in the afternoon. Those are 4 hours you've used of the athlete. And maybe plus the 1 hour where they'll stick around, have lunch and all that stuff. Then after that, the other hours, no one knows what is happening to the player. And it is a very huge gap, because the more you don't know,
that's the most important part.
And that's why Man City will wake up in the morning and say, you know what, guys, we need a sleeping coach. Why do we need a sleeping coach? Because we need to monitor the period within which they sleep. Because sleep is also hugely determinant on performance. Do you know that you missing just 3 or 4 hours of your sleep cycle as an athlete can contribute to you not performing in that particular game?
Definitely.
And it is very, very bad, for example, in elite sport like in the Premier League, because you'll find that even just not being fit at the beginning of the season can kill your whole season, because you'll work always behind. And that means, for example, if there are rest days, you might have to work harder to ensure that by the time these individuals come back or they've gone for international break, you've caught up with the preseason you missed and all these things. So the input into performance, especially for the athletes, is very, very huge. And if many things are neglected, I usually call it the science. If the country ignores the science, if the club ignores the science, if the national setup ignores the science, including the sports psychology, the nutrition, the physiotherapy, the strength and conditioning, the tactics and all these things, at the end of the day, performance will not be anywhere close to that team.
Wow. Now, to a parent out there, which advice would you give to that parent that has a talented athlete in sport? What advice would you give?
Obviously, if you can find a channel, if you can find a channel where you can get support, most of the time we always push, and that is one of the solutions actually to the challenges. We try to push to ensure that we can, especially under Uganda Olympic Committee, we try to push to ensure that we can provide these services at no cost. For example, I can run a workshop for athletes. So if you can manage to be part of those events, I'm always on spaces on X talking about mental health and all these other things. I think when you checked, you saw some of them on my X. Yes, I usually also talk very good information on those spaces. Those are all free channels that people can access. But if the worst goes to the worst and there's an outstanding mental health challenge that is there, parents are also encouraged to try these free hotlines. There's Mental Health Uganda that supports every individual, not only athletes. So if there's a huge mental health challenge that is happening, especially for athletes or individuals in that line, there are also free channels that people can access. Then in addition to that, I wouldn't recommend people going on the internet and searching widely. But if you can get some little guidance, you can also use the internet as a resource to pick some of the best practices and advices that can help you, either as an athlete or as a parent or as an individual who is concerned with people in sport. So try to use those free channels, but then the other alternative channel is to maybe find an individual, a practitioner or someone who is well qualified. And for me, I mark it well qualified. Why? Because the more we continue receiving services from unqualified people, the higher the chances of you getting misled. And it is very, very sensitive, especially with things like mental health that people can't see. Sometimes the damage is actually happening because you're relying on an individual who is not qualified and you're not noticing it. So it is not like maybe malaria where you will see your temperature is still increasing irrespective of the fact that you went and got an injection from a doctor. The mental health will not tell you until you degenerate up to a point where you're struggling to return. So it is very, very key. And this is the advice actually I would also encourage people who want to access mental health. Always ask for qualifications of the people you're working with. If you realize the qualifications are not up to the mark, please reconsider.
How will you differentiate the NASA ones and the real ones?
Obviously, there are telltale signs. If you're a good researcher on the internet and all these other things, you can even ask for the qualifications and references so that you can maybe make a phone call and say, you know what, I got this person's CV. I would like to know whether they actually did this. Yeah, so it is something that someone can just put in an extra effort to ensure that you're going to get the best service possible that will help you as an athlete, as a parent, or as an individual or a team setting.
Okay, what are those practical steps that you would give to a young athlete to take, both mental and physical?
Okay, I'll start with the physical. One of the key things is always look after your body. Your body is literally your performance. If you find yourself in compromising situations, the best advice I would give you is maybe compare yourself with the best athlete in the world. I think most of us saw that video where Cristiano was pushing away a fizzy drink from himself. Fizzy drinks may not be helpful to an athlete in one way or the other. So it's the same practice I would encourage somebody to choose. If you realize some of the things don't help your performance, please always take them away. And the other thing is, I've done very many workshops about drugs. Drugs are in our environments, drugs are all over the place. And most people are going to find it easy to access them. But as an athlete who wants to get to the highest level possible, one of the things that would impede your performance is the use of drugs. So if you can find a way of cutting drugs out of your system, out of your environment as well. Why? Because even if you don't take drugs and your neighbor is taking drugs, the chances of you taking drugs is close to 90%. So it's a very risky environment. Find an environment that is safe for you, an environment that is helpful to you, an environment that will protect you. Mentally, there are very many psychological skills we learn as individuals. Some of them people may not know them, but I would encourage an individual who is an athlete, go on the internet, search psychological skills. If you find one, let's say breathing, try breathing techniques. Why? Because those breathing techniques can help you emotion regulate. Emotion regulation will help you make the best decision possible while indulging in sport. For example, if you're swimming and you've realized that something is off, you'll be able to keep cool until the session is done, then you can be able to revert back. Sometimes you may not get the best result you want, for example in heat 1, but then you have to come back for another heat. So that means if your emotions affect your second heat, you're going to end up even performing poorly as compared to the first heat. So it is important that people know some of these skills. If you don't know the skills, I think it is always imperative on you to maybe always ask, maybe to reach out to individuals who you believe have the knowledge that can help you. So for me, those are some of the things I believe can help athletes. Obviously, there are many other things, but those ones usually happen when you're working one-on-one with the athlete, when you advise them that this is something that could help you, this is something that may not help you. So for me, in that direction, I feel like those are some of the crucial things that can be very, very instrumental in pushing an individual, an athlete, or any other person forward.
And the last one, what is that one thing that you see that needs to be changed immediately to improve our safety and protection of our athletes in Uganda?
I think the people working with athletes from the grassroots level up to the top need to be trained. Trained in the sense of them understanding the aspects of 1, harassment, 2, abuse, 3, player safety, 4, player protection, 5, safe spaces, 6, psychological safety. If they can grasp and learn that those things are very key and important in either individual settings or team settings, I think it is the best foundation that all our sports can have going forward and ensuring that athletes can be in the best position to thrive and to succeed in every sport that they take part in. Yes.
Well, thank you so much. But I want you to tell our viewers, you take them through like your kind of job, like in a day, if like what you just explained it, like just take them through, like where do you start from, what do you do, how do you set up, you have a team, da 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 da.
Okay. A sports psychologist day will be like, I'm a person who loves waking up early in the morning. So maybe by 5 a.m. I'm already up. I have a culture of reading for about 1 hour until 6. Reading specifically about modalities, different research papers and all that stuff that help me practice better. Then at 6 I'm preparing myself to get ready to go to the teams that I work with on the field and all that. For example, if I'm on a contract, like how I've been in cricket, I'll be at the ground maybe by 8 a.m. or even 7 a.m. depending on the program. If there's a trial game or if there's maybe a game that is going to happen, the game starts way much earlier. So by 6 you're already on the road. So if let's say that is happening, we'll travel with the team to the game. If it is training, we'll be there by 8. Maybe training will start at 9. Obviously, there are many observations I make when I've just arrived on the ground, because observations are very, very key. Then now, after some time passes and training has started, maybe we have a team meeting before the training starts, and maybe I'll give a nugget for the day as a psychologist. Talk about maybe something that could be impactful in their training. Then after that, I'm doing, we usually call it a wellness check, or we do an awareness check. We usually ask maybe athletes, out of 10, how are you feeling today? And when somebody replies, by the time they tell you I'm feeling 6 out of 10, they've assessed themselves general feeling, meaning you're building awareness in that athlete. Then you move on to having one-on-ones with the players. If I've organized the session as a group session, I will organize maybe a projector or a computer and then take them through certain aspects about their performance. The one-on-ones usually sort the mental health aspect, where you're finding about what is challenging the athletes and what they're struggling with. Then maybe as time goes on, you're having extra one-on-ones and maybe the day is done. Sometimes you may have workshops. So we deliver services in 3 ways. We have the one-on-ones, we have the group sessions. You gather a couple of people whom you can work with to do an exercise and all that stuff. Then you also have the workshop. So those are 3. Then after that, maybe I may stop working with that team for that day, and then now I may delve into other clients that I do have. And that could be one-on-one still, could be mental practice, could be any other thing, and then close the day. Now, when I'm closing the day, I don't just close the day just like that. I go back and then ensure that I'm making personal reflections, so that when I come back the following day, I'm improving my service as well, so that I can know that I've improved here and there, I've become better, and I'm also developing as a practitioner. So that would be a kind of day for a sports psychologist.
Wow, it's not a beautiful day to be in for me. Well, we're going to go into a simple quick fire questions, just one straight up. I'm going to ask you a quick question and you just answer short answers. One word to describe athletic safety in Uganda. Just one word.
Can I use the same word, safety?
You can.
Yeah, safety. I feel like it stands out on its own.
Okay. The biggest mistakes athletics make.
I use many words?
Okay, 2. 3.
Negligence of their bodies.
Of their body. Okay. One thing every coach must understand.
You can't do it all alone.
Okay, perfect. Your message to every young athlete which is watching right now.
Take care of your body. Take care of your mental health. Add an extra effort in your career, because that extra effort is always the game changer.
Perfect. You can't live here without talking the sport I love so much, that is football. First of all, tell us which team do you support?
Which team do I support? In
Yes.
the local league or
local
abroad?
league and abroad. Give us 2. You can give us 3. We are going even into World Cup.
Local.
Local.
Unfortunately, I haven't gotten any. Maybe I would say the one that my mom affiliates with.
Yes.
She affiliates so much with Wakiso Giants. Yes, because she's based in Wakiso.
Big Ridge.
And
that's where you are.
That's not me. That's the other person.
Which one would you like? Okay, which one do you see performances?
I'm struggling. I'll be honest with you, I'm struggling. But I know all the clubs. We go to...
Yes, okay.
We go to the Premier League. I think I've liked Wrexham. Wrexham is a club that is not in the top flight.
Yeah.
Right now it is in the championship. But they've had a very good story.
Yes.
Building up to where they are. And for me, I think it's a model club, especially for people who like marketing, who like building things into something really huge. I think its fusion with the Hollywood A-listers and it having those Netflix series, I think it builds up to something that is really beautiful. So for me, that's the reason why I would maybe look at it as one of the good clubs that hopefully, if at some point they can enter the Premier League, maybe I'll have a club that
still
I can look
journey,
at and
but
see.
According to their performance, they are not doing bad.
Yes.
Because before those guys of Hollywood, the actors taking over, I think they were in League 1. Then year 1 they come into League 2. Then now they are into 3 years they are into championship. So they are doing well.
So that is where I am for international. World Cup.
We have 10 African countries in the World Cup for the first time in history. Is there any you're supporting since your country is not there?
I think I'll work with the champions of AFCON.
We have 2, Senegal and Morocco. Morocco has it in the boardroom and Senegal won it on the pitch. So be specific.
I think I'll opt for Senegal. I'll opt for Senegal, yes, because I think
the Lioness of Tarangas.
I think their captain, especially for the AFCON, he's been instrumental, especially in supporting people outside the sport. Setting up projects that have been helpful and all that stuff. So I feel like maybe that could tilt me to that side. Yes.
Well, there is a title race in English Premier League that you have skipped. You cannot live without talking about it. I'm sure you watch these games. Arsenal and Man City, things are not looking good. Someone was telling me that Arsenal, like 2 months ago, they were saying quadruple, then from quadruple to treble, from treble to trouble. That wasn't me, that was my friend Cedric. So
I feel like it's still a long road for Arsenal. Why? Because with all eyes on them, with a lot of pressure coming from the outside, with already them having bottled a couple of games, and they lost crucial points, I feel like the pressure is so high. But anything, I think any result still keeps Arsenal in the title race. Even if they lose the game, even if they draw, and if they win, it puts them far ahead. So if I was a psychologist in the Arsenal camp, I would obviously help disarm them of the pressure and allow them understand that any result still keeps them in the title race.
Arsenal fans, this is the guy you need to look for, because where you're going, you need him. You need him. Thank you so much for coming. It's been really a pleasure, and I hope, we have hoped people out there, maybe you can let people where to find you on social medias, and if you don't mind, you can read them the numbers.
Edgar Kazibwe on social media. You can follow me on any platform apart from Facebook, but also you can reach out on my number 0700 164 717 in case you need support, in case you need help. I can always be there and support in one way or the other. Yes.
You can tell them your office where you sit.
I'm always around Lugogo, Riketovo. So in case you want to reach out to me, maybe you can just ping me and figure out a way we can have a chat or two, but also continue supporting, because the athletes need this support. They need the support so very much. And if they can reach out, well and good, so that they can be supported. Yes.
Well, thank you so much, Edgar, for sharing your knowledge with us. And I think it has been a very important conversation, and the authority that have been watching or going to watch, they're going to definitely benefit. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and share. Thank you so much.